Welcome one more time today. Last video. Today I would like to address those of you who already have a foam roller or plan on getting one in the future. I've already received a couple emails asking to demonstrate effective use of some of these implements, and I'm more than happy to do so. So over the next 10 to 15 minutes, we're going to go through a full body foam roll. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I hit all the body groups and hopefully get ahead of any questions that you might have. If at the end of this video you feel you have some questions, please feel free to reach out to me. As you may on any of these videos, I have no problem answering any questions and I'm more than happy to help out. So let me know. Let's get started. Okay, as I mentioned in my previous video, this is probably my most treasured implement. I have taken these or used these almost everywhere I've gone since I got started using them in Washington State. And I just can't say enough about them. Okay, it's a very simple thing, but I've found it to be invaluable in targeting every area of the body and just hitting all the muscle groups. So let's jump right in. Okay, first thing I like to do is get started. I like to always start with the back. Kind of gets your spine going a little bit, gets some blood flow. Now, those of you who might be curious to what this actually does is when you foam roll, you're actually bruising your muscles a little bit and increasing blood flow to those areas. Now, anytime we get hurt, our body's response is to send blood to that area, and that's because blood contains nutrients and increases the healing process. So basically what we're doing is slightly bruising ourselves in order to increase blood flow to those areas, which is a reason I like to do it before I work out, because it's like a warm-up without really having to warm up. So it's also good for post-workout and the day after a workout. Really, you can do it anytime you want. So I like to start with the back, and what I like to do is start at the top, obviously, and work my way down. I'm going to caution against going too low, okay? We're going to stop about 2/3 of the way down our back, and the reason for that is once we start hitting that low back area, we start running the risk of a diminishing returns, basically. The upper back, the cervical spine, and thoracic spine are very stable. Most of us, when we have back problems, we're talking about our lower back, so we're going to stay away from that area. Okay, you'll notice throughout this whole exercise, my core is tight. I'm not allowing it to arch or sag, so this is very active, okay? And I just like to get started around the shoulder blades, kind of feel it out, okay? Once I dip below the shoulder blades, I can really start to feel the foam roller make contact with my spine. Now, if you haven't done this very often, this may be a little sore and you might hear a couple pops from your spine, much like you would going to the chiropractor. This is totally normal. If it does hurt, go ahead and give me an email and we'll talk about it. It shouldn't hurt. Basically all we're doing is rolling on the erector muscles of our back as well as our shoulder blades, so there shouldn't be any pain associated with this. Now you'll see I'm only going about 2/3 of the way down. I want to stop it just above hitting the lumbar spine, as you know, it's a tough area to get into and rather not risk it. So that's just nice, easy starting with the back. If your lats are tight, again, we're just going to extend our arm straight out, and you can hit your lats very easily in this fashion, okay? Now, if you run into any knots or anything like that, I challenge you to kind of sit on it for a minute, okay? If you find a particularly painful spot, that's a little bit of a knot in the muscle there, and just rolling over it back and forth is helpful, but if you can really get on top of it and pinpoint it, that's actually the best. So this is a nice one for your lat right here. I've got a couple knots in there I can work out, and obviously you can just flip sides. In order of to get this video done in a timely manner, I'm only going to do one side for now. Next, we can hit the pectoral muscles. Get right in here. We're going to put the roller at a little bit of an angle, and again, we're just going to extend our arm straight out and just kind of roll back and forth. Get the front of the shoulder, pec area. If you do a lot of push-ups or you got big bulky shoulders, this is definitely a good one to kind of help loosen that up a little bit. Okay. Now, again, like I said, you can't really overdo this. The more time you spend foam rolling, honestly, the better you're going to feel. So I'm not going to give you a rep limit or a set limit. Just kind of go at your own speed and feel it out for yourself. So far we've hit the back, the pecs, and our lats. So for me, that pretty much covers the upper body. I don't really worry about the core. You know, if your core is tired, you know, just take it easy. You know, you don't need to roll out your abs or anything like that. That's all good. So now for the most important part personally is our hip girdle pelvic complex. So we've got our glutes, hip flexors, extensors, groin. For my money, this is the most important area you want to focus on. So let's get started on that. Okay. What I like to do is, since our muscles go all the way around, I kind of like to start on one side and kind of spin gently, work my way around each muscle group. So I'm going to start with my glute, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my leg, put my ankle on my knee, and gently roll on my glute. Now what this does, as opposed to leaving my foot on the ground, is it tightens my glute. Because my knee is being pushed out, this muscle is forced to contract and expose itself a little bit further. You'll definitely notice more tightness and possibly more soreness from this position, but it's definitely beneficial to get a little bit deeper in there. So once you've hit your glute on the foot that you have on top of your knee a couple times, I like to go just turn just a little bit. And so now you've got 3 areas in your glute. You've got your glute max, which is the big meaty part, glute medius, which is a little bit smaller and covers a little bit more of the outside, and then your glute minimus, which is a little bit up higher and might almost feel like part of your hip. I like to go to my glute min now because that definitely gets a little sore for me. So rather than being down on my glute, I'm now up here a little bit closer to my hip. I'm still on my back, but for me, this is an area that definitely needs some work more often than not. Okay? And so what you're going to feel here is this muscle group actually comes from the side and actually goes all the way around, and this is your extensor. That's what allows your leg to lift. Okay? So I like to work all the way around to the front here, kind of at that same height. You can feel it out for yourself, feel where the muscle soreness is, okay? And just gently rotate over to the front. Now I'm keeping it pretty high still because I still want to hit that upper hip extensor area. So we're going to roll on that. Definitely make sure you turn your hips, feel it out for yourself. You'll know when you hit the muscle group. If you hit bone, it's not really going to feel like anything. If you hit the muscle, you'll know it. Okay? So now as you go, flip sides, jump to the other side, gently work your way all the way around until you get back to the other side and you're working your other glute. Okay? So for you guys, I would spend as much time as possible in this area. This is not only going to allow you to move better, but it's also going to alleviate a lot of tension in your hip area and hopefully get you into a position that's more athletic during your golf swing. So now a little bit lower down the legs, I like to do the same kind of rotation. Okay, I'll start with 1 hamstring as opposed to 2. I found that with doing one side at a time, I get more out of it. If I try to roll both at the same time, you know, there's not as much weight on each leg. So if I target one leg at a time, I really get a lot more out of it. So start with the hamstrings, okay? Make sure you go all the way from just underneath your glute down to just above the back of your knee, okay? Because your hamstring goes all the way down. Now, much like the other muscle groups, this is a large area. So I like to rotate my leg back and forth, okay? I'll get a little bit more of my inner hamstring, middle if my foot is pointed straight up in the air, and then if I turn my foot a little bit to the outside, I can get the outside of my hamstring as well. All right. Now, for most of you, this next one is going to be the most painful thing you might have ever felt in your life. And what we're going to target is what's called the IT band. Now, this band connects from your hip and goes all the way down to the outside of your knee and runs all the way along the outside of here. Surprisingly enough, just from rolling this out, I've alleviated knee pain in the past, as well as hip tightness and low back pain. So the IT band is a big contributor to stability and how you move. So stick with it, okay? It's gonna feel very uncomfortable, probably for many of you, but it's something we got to do. So start at the upper hip, okay? Roll all the way down to just above the knee, okay? Gently back and forth, okay? Find those knots, and I guarantee you there will be several of them, okay? Don't shy away from it. Again, if you need a little alleviation, you can always take the weight off, put it on your legs or on your arms. If you need a little more, kind of sink down, try to put the weight on your leg. And once again, find those knots and kind of sit on it, okay? Don't just roll over it back and forth. It's gonna hurt, but I challenge you to kind of sit there. Remember to breathe, okay? If you hold your breath, you're really just inviting more tension into your body. If you're able to breathe calmly, you'll find that that pain and tightness alleviates itself. So just like that. Now what I'm gonna do is gently start rotating in onto my quad. I've got my outer quad and my inner quad here. Again, go all the way the full length of the leg. Okay. Kind of hit the middle, doing one leg at a time. And now, if you want, you can put both legs down, and if you want to do the inner, you point your feet out kind of like a frog, and you can hit both the inside quads at the same time. Typically for me, they don't get very sore, so I'm not too worried about it. And then as you go, slowly, same, work your way around the outside, okay, hamstring, and we're back. Okay. So now we've only have two things to go. We've got our groin and our calves. So the groin requires a little bit of a different maneuver, kind of like the pec. Kind of put your foam roller at a 45-degree angle next to you, okay? And you're gonna swing your leg up, back leg straight. And what you're gonna do here is gently roll the inside of your thigh, okay? For some of you, this may be a tough position to get into. Go at your own speed. Figure out what works for you. Okay. The groin is not something to be ignored. You see a lot of athletes have groin injuries. Okay. And that's because it's a under-respected muscle group, something that doesn't get a lot of attention. Okay. The more we ignore something, the more susceptible we come to injury in that area. Okay. So again, do both sides. Easy. Now the calf, again, another painful one, probably for many of you who have tight calves. For this one, you really got a lot of meat here on your outer calf, in the middle, and then on the inside as well. So it's gonna take a little bit of maneuvering on your part. Try to recognize once you've gotten off the calf muscle here, the lower you go, the closer you get to your Achilles. Okay, if your Achilles gets sore, foam rolling's okay, but don't be too aggressive. It's not a muscle group, it's a tendon, so we kind of want to take it easy on it. So we'll start on the outside of the calf here. Work it around, okay? Make sure you get the whole thing all the way up to the back of the knee, all the way down to the end of the muscle. Okay, do both sides. Take as long as you want. Not going to hamstring you on reps or anything like that. Go at your own speed, figure out what works for you. That's a basic intro to foam rolling. Obviously, you can play around with it. There's a couple different exercises I might go over later, but for now, that should be enough to get you started. Really quickly, I want to talk about implements a little bit smaller, a little bit finer. So here I've got a golf ball, a baseball, and a lacrosse ball. If you have a tennis ball, that works as well. Tennis ball has got a little more give to it. Now, if you have a large implement like a foam roller, it's great for targeting large muscle groups and getting a lot done all at once. If you need something a little bit more pinpoint, that's where these come in really, really handy, okay? If you notice that there's a certain spot in your hip or your glute or any area that is kind of hard to get at just with a foam roller, that's where I highly recommend these. They're easy to get a hold of, and hopefully everyone has a golf ball in their house at this point. My personal favorite is the lacrosse ball. It's the right size. It's got a little bit of give. It's not as hard as a baseball, but a golf ball can be a little bit tough just because of how small it is. The smaller the surface area, the more pinpoint you can be. However, with this, it's a little bit tough to get enough surface area of your body on the ball to hit that muscle. So we'll start with a cross ball here. Again, you can do it on the floor. You can put it up against the wall if you want to do your back or shoulder or anything like that. Personally, for me, it's usually my hips that get the most sore. So, you know, again, just like the foam roller, kind of figure it out for yourself, okay? If it's the back of your hip that needs a little attention, right? It's definitely a good one. I'm gonna put the caveat in there, this is gonna hurt a lot more than the foam roller just because you're hitting one specific area of your muscle rather than the whole thing. So you gotta be a little patient with it, kind of build up your pain tolerance depending on how sore you are. But I guarantee you when you're done, you're gonna feel like a new man or woman. Get a lot of blood flow to areas that might not normally get it. I recognize that there are some minor purchases involved with these implements. However, you can get a great foam roller for less than $30. I don't think that's going to break anyone at this point. It's just a great thing to have, and they're nice and durable. If you want to hit your glute, you can certainly do that. Hamstring, okay. If you want, I'm doing it on carpet. If you want a little bit more resistance, I recommend going to a harder floor like a linoleum or wood. That won't allow the ball to sink into it quite as much, and you'll definitely get a little bit more out of it. Okay. As I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. If you want any kind of tips or anything like that, again, reach out, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer any questions. And I hope you guys all enjoy this brief tutorial on foam rolling, stretching, and implements you can use to kind of help soothe your body and get it ready to move. So good luck and enjoy.